What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another hatchling repaint video. Today I've got the Zuru blind bag Stegosaurus figure, and we're going to be painting this little guy to look like the hatchling or baby version of the 2018 Fallen Kingdom Stegosaurus. And as it is with most things, there's not just one color to rule them all. We need to mix some paints in order to get a close enough match to the skin tone of the Mattel Stegosaurus here. So we're going to have to mix and match some paints. So if you're painting along with me, I'm going to bring the paints in and kind of show you all of the 7 paints that I use to repaint this figure. And these are all Apple Barrel, the inexpensive craft paints from Walmart. So if you have access to those, you are in luck here. If you don't, you'll have to try and find paints that are very similar to these colors. Of course, you can always just play around with what you have access to and mix and match paints until you get the color that matches the Stegosaurus. So for the skin tone, it's very minty green, and this one here required a lot of these different paints to sort of get this. And you can see here I actually painted one of the scales with this to try and match it as best as I possibly could. It's never going to be a perfect match, but it's close enough. So to make this one, you're going to need dark granite, arbor green, crisp green, laguna, and antique parchment. Now what you want to do first is mix these 4 colors first, and then 1-to-1 ratio, and then mix in your dark granite to dull the color down, and do it a little bit at a time. Next up, we have the dark green for the plates on the back. And to get this color, you're going to need arbor green, dark granite, and black. And of course, you want to mix the arbor green and dark granite together, and then add the black to darken it. Now for the details on the plates, I've got antique parchment with a little bit of crisp green mixed into it. And for the spikes on the back of the tail, just going to go in with some antique parchment. It's a nice off-white color. And last up, for the little tiny orange eyeball, I'm going to be using outrageous orange for that. So that is the entire list of paints that I'm going to use on this repaint. I have them already pre-mixed in the little cups. I'm going to go ahead and disassemble the figure and prime it. Now I'm going to be using Tamiya Surface Primer. It's the gray color to prime this thing, but you can prime it by hand with white or gray, whatever you want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and coat this thing in some primer, and we're going to go ahead and start painting it. Now I am going to paint it first in little sections because I'm going to be doing some airbrushing on the underside of the belly, but you can paint that by hand if you don't have an airbrush. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of that skin tone green into an airbrush paint, and I'm going to paint the torso first, and then go back in with the antique parchment crisp green mix, that nice off-white green tone color, and I'm going to airbrush the belly because the adult version has a little airbrushing on the underside, and I just want to hit that first so I don't end up with any overspray on the limbs, and this is going to make it go by a little bit easier and less cleanup work that I'm going to have to do later on. So I'm going to reassemble the figure and finish painting the limbs by hand. Now I'm going to take a fine tip brush and paint the little neck area as well as the beak with the antique parchment crisp green mix. And now I've got the plates on the back section here off, and I'm going to paint those with that dark green tone. A couple of light coats will do the trick. And this thing is done, ready to go. I'm going to put it back on the figure and then finish painting all of the plates on the back. Now I'm going to go back in with that original minty green skin tone, and I'm going to just clean up some of the edges around the dark areas. So now we got the antique parchment going in with the little Thagomizer spikes, painting those. And now we got to come up here and paint these designs that are on the back of the plates. So I've got that same nice light white-green mixture here, and I've got a fine tip brush. I'm going to go in and just sort of mimic what those designs look like. This is pretty straightforward. If you've got the figure on hand, you can just sort of relatively copy what it looks like or do your own designs. It's totally up to you. Now it is hold your breath time because this guy has tiny little eyeballs, so we're going to paint the eyeball with that outrageous orange and then go back in again with a tiny little dark green dot and paint the pupil in there. And of course the original figure doesn't have the toenails painted, so we can't be lazy cats here. We have to paint the toes on this guy, and I'm using the dark green, same color that I used for the plates on the back, just to paint those nails in. And that is pretty much it. This little guy is done, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found the information provided useful, and it has helped inspire you to get out there and repaint your little dinos into matching hatchlings. If you do, remember to tag me over on Instagram at TedBrothers in your photos, because I love to see what you guys can come up with. For more Jurassic related content, you know where to find me. Links will be in the description box below. You guys take care, and I'll see you in the next video.